What's going on, guys? It's Char here, and for this week's video we have something a bit different. The weekly challenge this week requires Age of Apocalypse, so I can't bring that to you guys, but once I get that I'll probably go back and do it. This week we're going to be doing a tier list. I know tier list content is great. I've tried to put it off for a little bit, but with no gameplay this week, it seems like the perfect time. We're going to be going over the strength of the pre-con decks in Marvel Champions. We're going to rank all the heroes I've played, which should be everybody besides the most recent box, because I just haven't got a chance to get around to playing it. Now, I don't remember every single pre-con off the top of my head, so I'm going to be using Hall of Heroes as a resource, and it's going to be kind of based on feel. Obviously, I would say most Justice and Leadership decks, I'm going to say were probably pretty good, and then maybe some of the Aggression and Protection decks are probably going to feel worse comparatively, but it's also based on my own experience when I was using the precons to get a feel for the hero, just how I felt about him. So let's get into the tier list. Okay, so here we are at the tier list. It has every single hero in the game, and we're just going to go in release order, and we're just going to start rating things. Some things are probably going to move around, but our tiers, we have SS, which I'm really only going to put the best of the best precons. Like, you could take this precon and beat almost every villain on standard. I guess I'll put some of the criteria where this is my impression from playing the precons, and for most of these, they were based on playing standard Rhino and standard Claw a handful of times, usually 3 to 4 to 5 times. Some of the later heroes, when I was getting better at the game, I would move it up to Expert Rhino, because to be fair, it's not really a big difference at all, really. And then still standard Claw. Sometimes I would try Expert Claw with these people, but it's a bit difficult for some of the pre-comps for sure to even try and beat Expert Claw. So usually Claw was still on standard. But let's get started with Iron Man. Oh, not Iron Man, sorry. Oh, I guess we might as well because I already said it. So we're going to go look at the Learn to Play guide that comes in the core box and see what his pre-con looked like. So we have Iron Man Aggression right here. So when we look at him, we have all his identity-specific cards. Iron Man's pretty cool. He's got to use the tech upgrades. But they put him in Aggression, which I don't really love because Iron Man really wants to stay down the first couple of turns if he can. He wants to get his tech upgrades out. Chase him down, combat training. I'm not sure we need these. Hulk, Tag Team is fine. I like Tigra. I like the Avengers Mansion. Helicarrier is good. Nick Fury, Mockingbird. So some good allies here. So I just don't think Aggression is a very good fit for him. He would prefer to stay down. So for Iron Man's Recon, he is a strong hero, but I think I'll put him in a B tier right here. It's not too bad, but it could definitely be better. So we move on to Black Panther now. So with Black Panther, I think his precon was Protection. Yes, it says up here it was Protection. So we get all his upgrades. He wants to get his upgrades out and put in Wakanda Forever. He does have some good economy with the Vibranium, the 3 copies. So he gets stuff like Iron Vest, Black Widow Counterpunch. The problem with Protection in the early sets is this really isn't an identity. He does get that good basic package, and I do like Black Panther as a hero himself. It's just, I'm just not seeing it. I think this is probably a C tier, maybe even D tier, just from what I can remember from playing it. So we on to Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is an insanely powerful hero, and this precon might be probably one of the most insane ones in the game too. They put her in leadership. She has so much economy. She gets all the good cards like Get Ready. She gets Hawkeye. She gets Maria Hill. She gets Mockingbird, Nick Fury. I think that this, out of the box, I think Captain Marvel plus her precon being leadership, it is so strong. It can take on so many scenarios. You literally don't have to change it at all. You should change it. A lot of the fun from the game comes from tech building, but you literally don't have to change it. I think that's an SS unless something comes and changes my mind, but I don't see what could. It is so incredibly powerful. She's such a powerful hero, and it's not much more to say. Spider-Man Justice. I remember playing this one. This one they have you play against Rhino. Justice is a really good fit for Spider-Man. He has no thwarting, but he has a really good economy. He has good attacks, that swinging web kick for that baseline that everything is compared to in this game. We have the power of Justice here. Jessica Jones, such a good ally even today. We got the 4 Justice. We've got Daredevil. I don't see anything wrong with this. He's got a good, ally lineup. I think Spider-Man has a really solid precon. I think it's a pretty solid A, maybe even S tier. I think you can bring. I think Justice Spidey is just so strong now. It's just, if you know what you're doing, you do a lot. She-Hulk is one of my personal favorites. At least when I was starting the game, I spammed a ton of She-Hulk games. I would do She-Hulk aggression. I tried She-Hulk leadership with like the draw engine, resting all the allies. I didn't like that one very much, but She-Hulk aggression got me a lot of my wins through basically a lot of the core box, even some of them on expert. So she was a lot of fun. But let's remove myself from that bias. And how did I feel about the games that I played and her pre-con? She has chased them down for some Thor removal. We got combat training, relentless assault. I really like that one on the allies. Tag teams, whatever. Power aggressions, whatever. Tiger, I like. Uppercut's good. I mean, this is like your standard run-of-the-mill aggression one, but it doesn't really fix any of her problems which deal with thwarting. I know her alter ego can stop that thwart from going up, but man, you have to really rely on playing Hellcat and other cards to deal with the thwarting when you're just using the precon. So this was one of the first decks I edited, and because of that, it might have to go down. I think I'll put it with Iron Man. That same aggression, it can always just high roll, win the game really early, no building out. But I think She-Hulk, I don't know. I know I changed it very quickly after playing her, so I think B tier seems fine for that pre-con. Let's move on here. Let's go Cap. So here we have Captain America. Such a strong hero on his own. His hero cards are really good. His shield's really good. I mean, we've got 2 resource generators, and it comes in leadership. Like, what more can you say about this? You got the triple honorary Avengers. I mean, we got all these great leadership allies. We got the doubles, Avengers Tower, the Quinjets, Mockingbird, Make the Call. I mean, there's not too much to say about this. You have the Living Legend, his alter ego to reduce the cost of the allies. This has to be, just with how solid he is and putting him in probably one of the best solo aspects. Yeah, that pre-con is crazy. I was going to humor you guys and look through Doctor Strange's pre-con, but I just really don't think it's necessary. There's not a ton to say. He does have good ones. I love Iron Fist. He's such a good ally. There are some good ones in here, like Momentum Shift is pretty nice. The Night Nurse is really good. He comes with super good protection cards, and Doctor Strange is also good in protection. The pre-con is whatever, but Doctor Strange is so overwhelmingly strong, at least with standard in mind, that it just has to be S tier. There's just like really not a lot of debate, in my opinion, for it. The Invocation on its own, not saying that 25 blanks he beats any villain in the game, but on standard, I think it's pretty close. Let's go to Miss Marvel here. Miss Marvel, I remember not liking the pre-con at all. I will preface this. It's kind of like she has that protection pre-con, but most of the really, really good protection cards do come from Doctor Strange. Lockjaw, we have some stuff here that we can play from the discard pile. Endurance is really nice. I did like that when I played the precon, but man, I found it really hard to take wins when I was playing Miss Marvel. It's just really hard to flip down all her support, her alter ego actions. They put a lot of threat on the main scheme. I'm not a big fan of Red Dagger. It's just like her hero ability is so uniquely strong to her, and the protection aspect just doesn't do anything to really help her. I remember I think this might be our first D tier. I remember playing this and I was just not having fun at all. Protection is one of those aspects that you need to have a game plan going into it. Aggression, yeah, you can kind of just throw in some events. You can maybe rush down a hero. Justice, dealing with thwart lets you flip. It just gives you a lot more flexibilities, extra hand size, and leadership is obviously very strong. You get a ton of allies. But man, protection is strong, but in a precon sense, I don't think I've ever liked a protection deck except one. But I think you guys know which one that one would be if you've been playing for a while. Thor is interesting. It runs into a similar caveat of the other aggression ones, but I think it's a bit worse. I love Yarnborn. I love Hall of Heroes. I love how Hall of Heroes interacts with Thor's ability to, when you engage minions and draw cards. I think this hero pack is very good in multiplayer. Now, this is primarily going to be solo precon experience, but I did play the Thor precon in multiplayer, and it was not bad at all. I had a fun time with it. But man, that 5 hand size into 4 hand size is really tough when you're playing, single player. The Mjolnir is not free to play, so you have a 5-card hand, you add the Mjolnir, but then you have to play it, or if you want to play it, then you go down a 4. It's just, we don't have a lot of like basic allies to really make up for it. Invulnerability is probably, in my opinion, one of the worst cards in the entire game. It comes with Under Surveillance, which was one of the best cards in the entire game, but it's an aggression precon. And then get over here. This does basically nothing in solo play. So you can tell this is definitely a multiplayer focused pack, but because this is primarily for solo, I think I have to put Thor down here in the C tier. I love Thor. I think he's fun when he's built. When you build for him, you build around and bring him to scenarios that he's strong in. But man, it is rough going. We're moving on to Black Widow here. So Black Widow, I remember playing this precon. I think it's Justice, right? Yes. She comes with super great Justice card, Agent Coulson, Quake, Stealth Strike. I mean, I really like this precon. It comes with Nick Fury, Quinn Carrier. Like when I was playing this against like normal standard Rhino and standard Claw, man, I got so many preparations on the board. I guess the one thing I was struggling with was damage, but I think I was a bit of a worse player back then. But man, looking at this precon, we have two of the best Justice allies, even nowadays. We have the counterintelligence, surveillance team is great, Nick Fury's great, Quinn Carrier. It just, you get so many resources to play for all your preparation events. You get the economy off drawing and using preparation cards. It's so good. I think, honestly, I'm struggling between S and A here. I mean, maybe even SS, but I think it's really hard to beat SS if you're not leadership, so I think I'll put her into S tier. It's such a strong precon, and you will have a lot of fun playing her. We're going from a very high note to possibly a low note here. We're moving on to Hulk, and man, I remember playing this, and this was, Dropkick and Toe-to-Toe are super great cards, and they work really well for Hulk. So because of that, in spite, and then it comes with Peacock, man, some of these early sets had such good cards in them, in the extra cards in the back of the hero pack. But just looking at Hulk on his own, you have that 5 hand size in Alter Ego that goes down to 4, but then you can't even keep cards in your hand to plan out your next turns. You are truly at the mercy of what you draw every turn. He doesn't have a lot of build out or setup to help you with it. I mean, he has Banner's Lab. He has this really good immovable object upgrade, but man, 3 cost is crazy. He does have 2 triple resources, which is really good and combos really well with Dropkick. So if you're looking at simply a standard perspective, you are not thwarting anything with this deck. You are trying to race against the enemy, and if they get any guard on the board or any schemes that are really bad, you kind of just fold. I think it has to go into C tier. I think it can get some wins. I just think it's extremely flawed, and I think I remember struggling with standard Claw trying to beat with just base Hulk, because he gets those minions, the armored guard, that come in with guard and toughness, and it's just Hulk really only has his basic activation every turn. You're playing at most 1 or 2 cards. You can never flip down because you can't control threat. It's definitely a rough time. We're going to move on here now. We're going to go, looks like Ant-Man is next, but Hall of Heroes has it in a bit of different order. Oh no, we have the Rise of the Red Skull box. Okay, so we're looking here at Hawkeye. We'll do Hawkeye first. I think Hawkeye is one of those more underrated heroes in general, but again, we're talking about the precon and my experience with this precon. I did like Hawkeye's precon, but man, drawing these were so bad because I almost never wanted to play them. I can remember that experience. Ready for action. I loved the fact that he is leadership and he's a precon. Honestly, in this tier list specifically, is going to bump him up. I think Hawkeye is unironically like an 8-tier precon. I remember playing it. I thought it was really strong. You have, a really strong suite of Avengers allies. You have the Avengers Tower. You have Earth's Mightiest Heroes that can ready and get you more arrows. I thought it was a solid time. I really didn't have any major complaints. Now we're going on to Spider-Woman. Now this is one where I'm not sure I remember her precon very well. Oh yes, it's this one. It's the Aggression Justice. This is another one where out of the box, this precon felt so strong. Like I went through the Rise of the Red Skull box. This is when I was very new to the game on standard, and I almost changed nothing from this deck. It was basically 1-to-1. I maybe took out the tag teams, took out one of the combat trainings, put a couple of extra things here or there, but man, even the normal aggression Justice variant, this deck was very strong, and I think it comes off the back of just Spider-Woman be a very strong hero. I mean, this Pheromones card when you're playing on standard against no stall or no steady, it's just extremely strong, and I think it even goes above into the S tier. I mean, I went through the whole box with being very new to the game with no issues, basically using her precon, and it was just a ton of fun. So that's where they go. We're going to the next one here. We're going to start off with Cycle 2. Let's go to Ant-Man. Ant-Man, I remember, I think this is another leadership one, and just from what I remember when I played him, he's another one where he's a very strong hero. I like that he gets to ping a damage or some threat. This is so good. The helmet is an insane item upgrade in this game. Oh, it's not an item. It's a tech upgrade. But it's such an insane upgrade. I remember, like, there's so many good leaderships events in here. Allies. You got Ronan, you got Stinger, you got Hank Pym, Ant-Man. I mean, to be fair, I will probably knock this down from the other leadership decks. I think there's a lot of dead cards in this deck, like Moxie, I'm not a huge fan of. Power Glove, I'm not a huge fan of. Reinforced Suit, I did find some use for when I was playing him. But, I mean, First Aid I think is really good. It's underrated when you're playing allies. And the triple team building exercise is good. But I don't know, I was just... from when I was playing Ant-Man, I don't think he was nearly as strong as some of these heroes up here. Might be an unpopular one. I think I'll just put him in an A. I think it's pretty solid. I put Hawkeye in the A. But I think he has like 9 cards that you don't always want to draw. Like, he has 6 upgrades in the deck, and upgrades, like, unless you're Voltroning, I'm not a big fan of. And, I mean, yeah, I'll just put him in the A tier. It's leadership. It's a strong hero, so he's going to be strong. It's just... I don't know if S or SS tier strong. So here we have the Wasp, and I'm pretty sure she was aggression. The Wasp I was a fan of, even though I didn't like that her tiny form has like no stats. That was something I wasn't a fan of when I was playing her. But I really like the Ant-Man ally. I really like some of our events, the Pym particles. The helmet is not nearly as good as Ant-Man's helmet, but it does fix her little thwarting issue that I had with her tiny form. Her big form gets 3 thwarted and whatnot. Unless is this the one that it spreads? Oh, it can be divided. Okay, yeah. This one I really like her giant form just because for how versatile it is. I really love surprise attack. I love boot camp, but man, this is another one where having the triple boot camp, having the triple lion weight is just like really tough. Triple into the fray. It's just really expensive. We do have the power of aggression to help us, but we also have 2 of the best basic allies, along with the power novelist, along with Quinn Carrier. So I think this is a pre-con deck that I was able to high roll pretty well. I think when you have your stuff set up, you can spend for a lot of these aggression events, but she does like getting set up, and that's my main thing. I don't know if I have exactly what it takes to put her in the S tier, so for now, I'll just throw her an A. Now we'll go to the next one. I think it's going to be Quicksilver, and I think the tier list is finally in order again. Let's see. So we're going to Quicksilver here. If I remember, I think this one was Protection. I really loved Quicksilver's design, but man, when I was playing Quicksilver initially, just trying to get a feel for him, the same problem I have with almost every single pre-constructed Protection deck is that he really doesn't have the tempo, the cards, the economy to get to that point where you can build out and take control of the game. Order and Chaos, I'm not a big fan of. We have Triple Adrenaline Rush, Triple Civic Duty, which are very good if you have like a build deck. But man, Nerves of Steel do help. I will say that it is definitely better than the other Protection decks. I love Multiple Man. It's such a fun card. I love Quicksilver, but we're rating the Precon, and in my experience, it's definitely not as bad as the Protection decks down here. I think it's a solid B tier. It's just really hard for Protection to get any better than that, in my opinion. Let's go ahead and move on to his sister. Let's go to Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch is such a strong hero, in Standard specifically, just playing the Hex Bolts, getting her helmet out, changing those boost icons and whatnot. She really is strong. Now, playing her Precon, I mean, this is just part of playing her in general. The 2 obligations are kind of rough. But, from what I remember with her Precon, she has so many good... thwart cards. She introduces so many good thwart cards for just the identity in general. We got Multitasking, Crisis Averted, Wiccan is great. Swift Retribution can also be really good for keeping in control of that main scheme. Turn the Tide, 0 for 3 damage is crazy. You get to do your basic thwart and then deal 3 damage. It's just so strong. Spiritual Meditation, she's a mystic. Like this Precon is definitely S tier, if not SS tier. From my experience when I played her, it kind of made, Rhino and Claw, it kind of made him a joke, honestly speaking. But that was Scarlet Witch. Now we're going to move on to Galaxy Most Wanted. This is not the order. I played Groot and Rocket very recently, so this might affect their placement a lot, but I don't think the placement is going to be very controversial. So let's go ahead and look at Groot. I think I just have a fundamental problem with how Groot works in general. I really hate that it's a forced response when he takes damage, but again, that's not what this is about. We're just looking at his precon, and I'm going to tell you, other than Starhawk, the precon does not get much better. Starhawk is super good. 2 cost 3 health. You can do 3 thwarting, and you can return to your hand. He's such a good ally. Such a good ally. But man, everything else in this really does not pull their weight. The Rocket Raccoon ally is not great. He only gets his stats when he attacks a minion. Death Focus is really good, but you really do not have a way. You have no thwarting almost at all in this deck, and you do not have a way to safely build up those growth counters. You want to be Alter Ego, you want to build up the growth counters, but you're not able to do it because he has no thwarting at all. And because of that, I think playing Groot was probably not one of the most abysmal experiences, but it was very tough even trying to get wins on standard even trying to get wins on like standard claw. It was a struggle for me, and this is after I had been playing for a good number of months. Hopefully a bit more positive note, we're going to move on to his best friend Rocket Raccoon. Now, playing Rocket I thought was a ton of fun as I was doing it. I thought his upgrades were really cool, even though they were kind of expensive. I like when heroes get these custom resources that also have an effect on them. Like, you get to put a tech upgrade from your discard on the deck. It's so cool. I think he's really thematic. And then he came with an aggression precon, which is like, why are we doing this? It's really tough, I think, to make aggression work. I think Rocket does have a lot of damage, but he needs the survivability. And to be fair, the one light at the end of the tunnel for this is that Groot ally. The Groot ally is probably one of the most insane allies in the game. Even still, in my opinion, 3 for 6 health is absolutely insane. And when he defends for you, he can heal. So being able to mulligan for this Groot ally specifically, honestly, I think gives you, the leeway on Rocket to go ahead, maybe get the cybernetic skeleton out. It just really gives you that leeway to, okay, I'm going to go. He has that 2 thwart on his, his hero card too. It really gives you the ability to go and build out these weapons and push for a kill. I'm not sure if the aspect does him a lot of favors, but man, that Groot ally specifically definitely puts this precon up. How far up it goes, I don't know if it's quite. I think it might be B tier. I think I would probably rather play Rocket than any of the precons below, so I think it could be B tier. I think it's between B and C, honestly, but I can't see anything standing out to me that's really, too egregious that I would put him down lower. So now we're moving on to the leader of the Guardians himself, Star-Lord. Now, Star-Lord is one of those characters when you're new to the game and counter cards are super scary. And man, when I first played him, I had no idea what I was doing. I was overplaying the encounter cards on myself. I was putting myself in really bad situations without understanding how to use that economy to help me push for tempo when I need it, how to push to win the game. I just really didn't understand how his kit was supposed to work. And because of that, if I was rating this precon when I initially played it, it'd probably be at the very bottom. But now I have to look at this. Imagine if I played this again with a new set of eyes and what I know about how Star-Lord plays and how you're supposed to play him. He has definitely some cards that he doesn't want in this deck, like Target Practices, whatever. Like, we don't want Laser Blaster. That's basically 6 dead cards. But everything else really isn't that bad. Air Supremacy, again, maybe that's like 9 dead cards and like these allies or whatever. So we're definitely adding up the dead cards, in my opinion, for this precon. But man, he's got the nowhere allies. These pulse grenades are funny ways to maybe cheese out some games. The thing about Star-Lord is that his hero kit is so insanely strong, in my opinion, that I can't see his precon being much lower than A tier. He's leadership, even though his allies aren't the greatest. You can get the Yondu, maybe take no consequentials, pinging some toughs off every turn. Maybe you give him that plasma rifle to actually mini Voltron him. But man, it's once all the stars align, you got the bad boy, you have the daring escapes, you have the slide shots, everything just lines up, and it's like art. It's like art. We're gonna move on to Gamora here. So Gamora was definitely interesting. I think I remember playing her precon and I thought it was very strong. I really liked these cards, which were like the Impede I was a big fan of, the Clobber I was a big fan of, and I liked First Hit too. Hit and Run was very fun. I liked Drax as well. I remember playing this and having a ton of fun with it, and I also thought it was very strong. I think Gamora is one of those heroes that hits the ground running instantly. You start dealing damage, you start dealing with threats on the board. She can be a bit reliant on the cards she draws for a turn, and with no ways to actually tutor cards to your hand, it can be a bit difficult. But I do think it is worth. I had a lot of fun playing her, and in terms of strength, I think she's easily up in the A tier. I could maybe see an argument for S, but she was just very strong when I played her. Now we're going to go to something that I thought I'd never say. You guys knew it was coming. If you're around in the community, you know. This is probably, in my opinion, the pinnacles for one of the best hero packs ever made for this game. The way that Drax hero ability works, he gets that extra attack for getting hit, and he gets that extra attack for getting hit, and if he can't add those little tokens on him anymore, he draws a card. His hero cards, give him card draw, so that 4 hand size is kind of mitigated. He gets retaliate, he gets +1 attack. You're swinging with this Drax who can ready up, deal 5 damage. He has some good events. He's got like the counter punch. Hard knocks is so good, especially for Drax. You get to deal 4 damage. You get that tough card. Leading blows can give you a ready. It's just Gamora is such a good ally as well. It just gives you resources to your hand for some of these defense events. The way that Drax works in protection specifically, and with his precon, it wasn't even close. It wasn't close with Claw. It wasn't close with Rhino. From pure experience, I'm not saying it's necessarily better than any of these heroes. There's no way I would say it in any universe Drax is better than Doctor Strange. But off the pure idea of how good the precon is and how well it works together out of the box and how many dead cards you're going to have in your hand, it is almost none with Drax. You're going to have a ton of fun playing him, even though his power might not be right there with the other heroes with a fully made deck. I think with the precon, the way that he just works together, if I were to tell anyone what deck do you think you can run and play through most of standard, I would assume that I having to change a single card. Definitely Drax hero pack. Now when you actually add those cards, it gets so much stronger, so much better, but that's just it. Now we're going to move on to Venom. Now this one I don't remember playing a ton of, but I played Venom very early into my Marvel Champions career. It was basically after I played all the core box heroes. I bought Venom from a Barnes & Noble that was going out of business. They had a sale, so I bought the core box Venom and a few other heroes, the Green Goblin pack. And I remember playing Venom after the core box heroes. I'm like, man, this is such a strong character. The Sonic Rifle gives him flips down. Jack Flag is just a good ally. Scare Tactic is just cheap damage to do on a confused enemy. Venom has a lot of ways to confuse here. He gets that economy from taking a damage, but it also combos with the confuses, so he can flip down and heal. Everything about this hero. The Sonic Rifle is just so good. You get the sidearm, side holster, so you can get all these restricted cards out. Resourceful is kind of whatever. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of the plasma pistols either, but just everything, I think everything about the precon is so strong. Honestly, because Venom is such a strong character, I think he's very close to SS tier, but I'm going to leave him at S for right now. I'm going to do a quick water break, talking a while. All right, back to it. So we do have one more Guardian that wasn't actually released in the same cycle as the rest of them. I guess there's 2 more Guardians, but I was going to do Nebula next, but I forgot Mad Titan Shadow. So we're going to look here. We're going to look at Spectrum. So Spectrum I played relatively in recent memory. I really like her kind of phases that she can swap between. She has this card Speed of Light, which I'm a big fan of. It replaces its card in your hand and you change energy forms. And then after you flip from alter ego to hero, you can change the form. So one thing I don't like about Spectrum is that it's really hard to change between energy forms once you're in hero form unless you draw Speed of Light. But from what I remember, I was remembering, I'm like, this has to be the leadership deck that introduces Mighty Avengers, introduces Kalu and White Tiger, which are 2 of some of the best Justice allies in the game, even still today. I just remember when I played her, I felt like she was very strong. I had a lot of fun playing her, and this goes hand in hand with leadership basically being the strongest aspect in solo. Honestly, I could definitely see an SS here. It just works so well together. I liked her energy forms. We got the Avengers Tower to reduce some cost. Sometimes you get all these allies on the board. You have that band together resource. Um, this one I'm a bit iffy on. I don't know if it works as well as these two out of the box, but I will leave her there for now and reevaluate at the end. Adam Warlock. Now this is a really weird character to evaluate. As you can see, he can only have one of each card. He is a singleton hero. He can only have one of each like card of any type in his deck. And he has to have the same amount of cards for each aspect in his deck. But he does combo off with his hero ability. He's able to trash cards from his hand and get some bonuses based on when he discards it. One of them is really strong. I think it's heal 2 damage or heal 1 damage from an ally, which lets you like really keep your allies on the board. He has some good cards in his hero pack, but I remember playing his pre-constructed deck, and it's just weird. Like, he has good cards in here. Like, Marvel Boy is like fine. Quasar's very good. Major Victory, I would say, is also very good. Make the Call. Charlie 27, I wasn't a big fan of, but it's just because there's no synergy. He does have all these like really strong mystic spells that he's able to use, and Summoning Spell by itself is just so strong in a correctly made deck. As a caveat, I will add, Summoning Spell, I mean, the best hit you have for it is, I guess, Charlie 27 in terms of cost per playing it. But I do remember playing this deck. I did have fun with it, but I'm not sure where I would rate the actual strength and viability of it. I think for that, I'll do a tentatively B tier. He's really weird to use. You can't really rely. Like, I think most hero packs have a problem where you have a lot of triples of cards that you can only have one of on the board because, I guess they wanted you to play in multiplayer so you could give them to other people. But he has the opposite problem where you can't really rely on anything that you're drawing, and you kind of find yourself playing the hero cards a lot of the time rather than anything that comes in that pre-con deck. Which is, again, shows that the pre-con deck I don't think is very good, or maybe it shows that he's stronger than I give him credit for. I do love Adam Warlock. I want to play him some more. I want to put more games on him, but I just don't think he's super high up there in terms of pre-constructed decks. So now we're heading to Nebula. This is the one I think I'm the most murky on, not because I thought she was bad or anything. It's just, it's been a while since I've played her. She gave me a similar idea to, a similar feeling to the Black Widow pre-constructed deck, because the techniques and the preparations, they're sort of similar to each other, not really. But she does come with these really strong cards, like one way or another, like those card draw. She has some ways to thwart out. She has Nowhere. She has First Aid for her allies. She can triple doubles Heroic Intuition. I mean, Justice Serve is also very good. You get a free ready if you remove the last threat. Her allies aren't great, but Eros is very good. Again, this is the one I'm the most murky on, but I do think I remember her being strong. So I will put her in the A tier just based on what I can remember. I definitely need to play Nebula some more. That is definitely a hero I have probably less than 5 games on. We're going to War Machine next. War Machine, I have a special place in my heart. It was my Magnets versus Metal for the Week 3 challenge, I think, that I used to defeat it. I just like War Machine. I like his cards. I like how he works. But I do remember when I played his deck, I think this is one of those where Quinn Courier is so good, Mockingbird is so good. I love those cards. They give you a chance to get some tempo on board, they give you some blocks and whatnot. But the one thing I will say is that he has a lot of cards which I never played in this pre-con. All the Go Down Swings I never played. Save the Days I never played. Sneak Attacks I never played. But Sneak Attack is decent. I just really never played it. But it is a good combo with stuff like Goliath and stuff like Black Panther if you want to use their abilities. I mean, it works really well. Actually, now I'm looking at it, I don't know why I never played it. Maybe it just didn't line up. Sometimes I would get a Sneak Attack, but I wouldn't have that ally in hand. I do like Falcon. I like Black Panther as allies in general. They're just very strong. I like Command Team, but I just feel like a lot of these allies don't have the HP, except Goliath, to really make Command Team go wild. A lot of the time I was worrying about getting my upgrades out, but it was strong. It just felt bad because sometimes you're going to draw a hand that's going to look like Go Down Swing, Save the Day, Innovation, 2 Against the World, Genius. And it's like actually an unplayable hand. And I just remember from my experience playing him, I had a lot of really unplayable hands. But looking objectively at the strength of the pack, I think it's probably a solid A tier. It's probably even near the top of it. Just leadership in general, so strong. You can cheat out allies in this deck that give you Well, it doesn't give you a block because it's not at the end of the round. It's only at the end of the phase. But being able to get that unit on the board, maybe use command team to make them go wild. There's definitely stuff you can do. It's just I remember playing it and feeling a bit restricted. Speaking of restricted, not to get ahead of ourselves here, Valkyrie is next. So Valkyrie is one of those characters where I really did not like playing her at all. I think she's extremely clunky in her pre-con, and I never really gave her a chance with the constructed deck. I do like the idea of some of the cards she has. I like the idea that you can mark people and you get bonuses for taking them out. But it's just like looking at the cost of her cards like Have at the 3 to 7 and Gate to Overkill is just like Overkill is such a I don't know why we're under the swinging web kick stat line. I'm just not a fan of it. She really has almost no access to thwarting at all. I mean, we're looking at the Thor ally for 1, Throg for 1, Angela has 0. I mean, we have Quick Strike here, Smash the Problem. Smash the Problem is our only thwarting here, and it's exhaust your hero, remove threat equal to your hero's attack. So what is the most we can do? 2 thwart, and then we get our Dragon Fang, so 3. It's just the deck truly doesn't work. I feel like the aggression events aren't even good enough to where you can realistically like burst down a hero. When you think of something like Hulk, like at least he has like the I forget what it's called. The 3, as long as they're 3 fist resources, you deal like 4 damage, draw a card and stun. Like Hulk has that card that he can use, and that combos with his triple resource. It's just like the aggression events aren't even good here. Her aggression events aren't as well set as I'd like them to be. I don't know. I feel like Valkyrie's precon is below these guys. I had more fun playing Black Panther, Thor, and Hulk over Valkyrie. It just was not strong in my opinion. We're going to move on. The next one we have for this cycle is Vision. So, okay, there's some interesting pictures here. I really like Vision. I like how he's able to swap form. I like these form swapping heroes, and I thought he came with some really interesting cards. Victor Mancha I really liked. Jocasta is very strong. He introduces the flow like water. But the same problem that I have with a lot of protection decks besides Drax is that I don't think it really works together that well. With the caveat that Vision has some strong cards in this deck. If you ignore basically most of the protection events, which you're going to find yourself doing with a lot of the protection precons, you have really strong stuff. You get an Avengers Mansion reprint in here. You get Reboot, which is super good for your signature ally, and it's good for Machine Man if you don't have your signature ally out. Your whole game plan with Vision is going to revolve around just cycling Vivian over and over, which again, it means the precon isn't super strong, but the basic cards down here are part of his precon. The reboots are good, so because of that, I think a Vision can solidly go. I think a B tier is fine for him. Most of the protection leaders you're going to see a bit lower. I think A tier is doing a bit too much, even though Vivian is just so strong and almost carries the deck single-handedly, but I think he's fine where he is. Okay, let's go all the way back down. We're past cycle 4, getting into Sinister Motives here. So here we go. Here we are at Sinister Motives. So Gwen Stacy is another protection hero, protection aspect hero with a caveat. I kind of forgot about her for some reason when I was talking about Drax, but when I played Gwen Stacy, it was a ton of fun just because of how she herself interacts with playing cards on the enemy's turn. She has the Dizzying Reflexes response. When you resolve an interrupter response on an event, you can ready Ghost Spider. So because Ghost Spider finds herself playing a lot of these defensive events on the villain phase, she's able to work in a way with all these events in a way that the other protection precons can't. She has some really good allies, the Spider-Man Web Warrior traded ones. We have the Miles Morales one here, Fire UK Silk. We have What Doesn't Kill Me, which is such a good card. Heal 2 damage and already all you need is a strength. She gets Spider-Man Spider-Man Hobie Brown. She gets Across the Spider-Verse and the Web of Life and Destiny. I think the Web Warrior trade is so strong, and she introduces a lot of the cards that make it really strong that I could definitely see her up here in A, maybe even S tier. I just think what she wants to do is so strong that I can see an S tier being justified for her, which is very, again, surprising for protection. Now, speaking of strong, I think we might be going to something even stronger. It's weird to rate this character because I'm supposed to be rating the precon strength, but because his hero-specific cards are so strong on their own, it boosts the whole precon up with it. Miles Morales, I think if you are having trouble beating almost any villain on standard, and that you're trying to ease into like getting better at the game, learning how the game works, Miles Morales is such a strong hero that teach you some fundamental concepts, and he's able to bail you out of situations with his stuns and confuses and his overall damage. It's insane. You have the stuff like Arachnobatics, which can be a 1-for-7 attack event. You have his specials that he can activate based on his cards that deal 2 damage and stun. Give him a tough, give him a confuse. He has the survivability, he has the damage, he has the CC. He has almost everything he needs. He has the economy. Not as good as Peter, but he does have it. Monica Chain comes in, brings all your surveillance, brings one of the surveillance teams in with 4, and then buffs up the other one. You got Agent 13, you got the Spider-Man ally. Just everything about this introduces all these really great shield cards that really buffed up the archetype. Everything about this is an easy SS tier. I can't see an argument against it. I just don't see how it can be argued. He is so strong, and yeah, that's just all there is to say, really. All right, we're gonna move to the next one. So we're into Cycle 5. This one is a bit shorter one. We're buffing out the champions a bit and the Web Warrior. So let's go ahead and bring it up. Okay, so we're here with Nova. I think Nova has a similar case to kind of the other heroes we were talking about. His hero cards are very strong. His helmet is very strong, but also he has really good aggression events. I like Pitch Bag. I wish he had maybe more allies in the deck. That's one weak point where he can have a bit of survivability issues, but 1x1 is good. Fluid Motion and Hone Technique, even though they don't necessarily go together, I think the deck is pretty cohesive for what it wants to do. I think an A tier is pretty solid. We're going to move on to Ironheart here. Ironheart is another build-out champion like Iron Man, but she does it in the ways of progress counters. She has specific resources that gives her progress counters, let her draw. It's a leadership deck, but it has a similar problem to kind of War Machine in my opinion, where I think a lot of these you don't really want to play, like Go All Out. I think I did play when I played her, the Morale Booze, R&D. A lot of these cards, like I wasn't super keen on, but the Ingenuity is so good. Helicarrier is so good. Go for Champions is so good. In spite of all the times you can get kind of weird looking hands with Ironheart, I think she is super strong. So because of that, I definitely am going to put her easily in the S tier. So on to Spider-Ham. Now, if we're talking about someone carried by their, hero and their cards, this has to be the number one. I don't even remember. Yeah, I couldn't even tell you what aspect he was in. Well, one way or another is very good for him. Spider-Ham is so rich. Oh my gosh, team building and Web of Life and Destiny. It's like, this is crazy. He is so rich. He doesn't need to worry about Thor. He doesn't need to worry about survivability. He has so much HP. He has 5 recovery. He just has it all. This is easily SS tier. He can flip down when he wants. He has a ton of damage. He has the economy. This is crazy. Spider might be a bit controversial. SPDR. I remember playing this, and Daredevil is such a good ally. Repurpose is very good. You have Force Field Generator. It introduces a whole new protection archetype that I think is very strong on its own. I will say that. But my main issue I have with SPDR is that when you're doing the pre-con decks, and this is just my own personal experience, when you're playing through them, she is really confusing, in my opinion, to understand how she works. And because of that, I feel like you can struggle playing the pre-con. If you don't know, you need to aggressively mulligan. And again, this is not really the pre-con's deck fault, but I think it does factor into how accessible her pre-con is, learning her and picking her up. If you don't know, you have to aggressively mulligan for certain interfaces. That interfaces give you the resources to mitigate that low hand size. I think playing your pre-con can be pretty abysmal. Like, let's say you open a hand that's just, I don't know, like Energy Barrier. I don't know. Like, there's some hands you can open and then you draw into your 3 cards for turn when you're not set up, and you hit like a thwip Energy Barrier Force Field Generator, and it's just like, it's just completely unplayable. Like, I don't have anything I can do with my turn. Even though Repurpose is a good archetype for her, I think it's really tough you have to bolster out and know how to play the leader. Limitless Stamina is super good card. I do think the deck is good, but I don't think I can see myself putting it any higher than 8. I think it probably strength-wise objectively is higher than A, but I just can't see. Personally, I'm not going to put it higher than that. This is one that it's pretty infamous. I played Mutant Genesis. I played basically almost everything before the X-Men before I really got into the X-Men. So Mutant Genesis was my first foray, and I played the Colossus deck. I'm like, man, I read these hero cards. I'm like, these cards are really cool. You know, we have the Polaris, we have the Nightcrawler, but man, they kind of forgot how to make a protection deck, in my opinion. Now, I will say there was a lot of good cards. You have Professor X, gives you that free Confuse to flip down. You got the X-Jet. But man, there's so many defensive events that make your hands unplayable in this deck. And the worst part about it is that he's a 4-hand hero, so we can't even do anything about it. And so because of that, I think Colossus, I don't know if I can really put him below these. I was thinking D tier. If I had to go my own personal experience, I think I had to fight Claw like 2 or 3 times when I think I was already decent at the game. It's just like he does not have it in him in the pre-con to deal with the stuff that a Claw puts on the board. He has no thwarting or anything like that. I'm going to stick to my guns. I think I'm going to put him in D tier. I think Colossus, out of the box, is like the worst impression, probably one of the worst impressions I've ever had on a hero, minus Miss Marvel, which I think is the worst. I think Miss Marvel's pre-con is probably the worst in the game. I think Colossus is definitely, close to her. Now, if we're going to go to the other end of the spectrum, when I was playing Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde, I had the exact opposite experience. These Ready to Rumbles were annoying drawing into, but the Colossus ally is super strong. I love the X-Mansion. I will say, I'll give a caveat. It's his aggression. It has a kind of a difficult time dealing with the thwarting, but she does have that 2/2/2 stat line, and she has this card, which is super good. It is a stun and a confuse in the same card. When the attached enemy would attack, discard this card, then confuse that enemy. It gives her that ability to flip down. The way that the deck flows together with swapping the forms, playing some of these events, it just felt really good, and it was so much better than Colossus. I think it's probably an A tier, maybe a B tier, but just off of the fact when I played her the first time, that's just what I felt. We're getting into Cycle 6 here with Cyclops. I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone. I think this is easily one of the most competent pre-cons in the entire game. Cyclops is just such a strong hero. You get these really strong X-Men allies in this. Like Angel, you get the Utopia for the Readies. Does it come with the X-Jet as well? It does not come with the X-Jet. But Danger Room training is so solid, especially because you get Danger Room in the pre-con. So the idea of the pre-con just works. You want to play these allies out. You have 5 allies. Obviously, you'd want a couple more. But you get these allies out. You get the upgrades on them. His economy is super good. He's able to tutor a card every turn. It's just... even playing his pre-con, Colossus had no trouble at all. It just was no struggle. We're going to move on to Phoenix here. Now, Phoenix is one that I played relatively recently, and when I played her, I thought it was a very strong pre-con. I thought the fact that she has that wild resource that she's able to, generate. She has a Cerebro. The Storm Ally I'm not a huge fan of, though I can see the uses for it nowadays. She has these mission training cards that really buffs any allies. You want to play the Psychic Manipulation. This is a crazy card. I was using this. I would flip down, and it's almost like a confuse because you just tell them, no, you're removing threat. It's a thwart card, and it stops an activation. It's pretty crazy. Unleashing with Phoenix lets you do a ton of damage. I just think that the design of the character in the deck just works in tandem really well. I don't think she's quite S tier up here with these other ones, but she is definitely the S tier. She's very strong, very fun. We're going to move over to Wolverine. This is going to be another pre-con that is really, really, really buffed by the hero it's on. Wolverine's Claws lets you just take damage and play any event in your hand. So a lot of the problems you'd have with a couple of these aggression decks is like, man, I really don't want to pay for these events because I'm not really putting any pressure on the board. You have things like Mean Swing, where in case you don't want to actually exhaust your claws to use an event, you can, and because you don't want to take damage, you can exhaust them to, just deal the damage, the extra on Mean Swing, which is +3 attack. You have Colossus Weapon X, works really well. I just think the idea of this deck works so well together. You have the Psylocke and the Sunfire, two of the strongest aggression allies in the game in this. Psylocke lets you flip down even though you don't really want to, because you have like Berserker's Frenzy, which gives you basically Spider Sense Peter Parker's hero ability on his card. You know, like the Adamantium Skeleton, like everything about Logan is so good. Again, out of the box, I think I'd have to throw it in an SS. I think it works too well. Like, Wolverine does that thing. He can just truly rush down the enemies. You don't have to worry about anything. You're healing from Healing Factor. You got that 2-2 stat line. Just very strong. And you're going to see a common trend coming with a lot of these X-Men characters. Now, Storm. Storm is the character who introduces the Uncanny X-Men support, and this alone should almost make her X tier. But when I was playing Storm, I honestly found... I wasn't struggling, but I found her kind of weird in a similar way for Spider. I don't understand how to play her truly correctly. I didn't really understand that her weathers affect the whole board and not just you. But after a couple games, I really got it. I really got into it. I'm not a super big fan of like the leadership skill or to me my X-Men in this deck specifically. But man, having the Fortitude or X-Shadow, Utopia, Endurance, X-Mansion, all these allies on Kenny X-Men, this is easily S tier. I know that I was, even my own experience was kind of odd with her, but man, it is such a strong pre-constructed deck. We're going to move over to Gambit here. So Gambit I played very recently. I think it was one of my last two most recent heroes, even though the channel is a chart. Gambit. And I thought it was super fun. You know, it gets a Professor X reprint. The thing about these precons nowadays is they're so much, I guess, better, well-made, and because the heroes themselves are more well-rounded, it really bumps up just cracking open a precon, playing it, getting a feel for the hero, and then going to adjust the deck. I know some people don't play with precons at all, but this is for people like me who do to get a feel of the hero, and then I go and take a couple rounds with a couple different cards thrown in. I just thought his gimmick was really cool. I like the charge counters. I like that. I mean, his thwarting event being alter ego is kind of odd, but it's pretty cool because it gives him a confuse. You know, he has Dazzler, which is such a good ally, and even I found myself using Bishop a lot just to get some damage because it'd been kind of weird. And this card specifically, again, it's not part of the actual aspect cards, but man, Rogue is such a strong ally. I don't know if I'd give it for Gambit into SS, but man, S tier, this was a very strong precon. He can have some issues with thwarting. I mean, he does have ways to thwart. He does have this one that lets him thwart. It's basically for justice in his hero or alter ego. So he doesn't have super huge thwarting issues, but it can come up where if you don't draw a thwart event and maybe like you flip down, he only has one base thwart and you didn't draw into a thwart event and maybe he schemed for a lot. Like, there were some situations where I found myself thwart was being a bit of an issue, but not super big. We're going into Rogue, and in my opinion, we're going back down the rabbit hole of not that they don't know what they're doing, but this deck was a pain to play. This was my most recent hero I played. I played it, honestly, I think like a couple of days ago, like 3 or 4 days ago now. I did my normal Expert Rhino Claw, and I actually lost a Claw in the first attempt, which, I've recently started playing like Expert and really, truly understanding, getting better at the game. And she has really good cards. Going Rogue is super good. Southern Cross is super good. But it's just this deck, Precon itself, produces a lot of unplayable hands. This is one of the issues I was talking about. Unflappable is 1 per player. So when I'm playing in solo and I draw into like 2 unflappables, this Judo skill, and then maybe like 2 other cards, Preemptive Strike, Defensive Energy, I have nothing I can do with my turn. And you have another set of 3 unplayables, which is the X Gene. It's like you almost always want to just discard the X Genes because you know you're going to draw into more of them. Man, Rogue, I think it might be our lowest X-Men here. I do like Rogue, but I think she's weaker in solo, which, this list is kind of talking about, but I think she's also just, it just can produce so many unplayable hands. Now we're going to move on to next evolution. Domino was in that play session with Rogue, was another hero I recently was able to play. Out of the box, Cable was interesting. I think Cable's strongest aspect is definitely Justice, but Cable is so strong on his own. I think I just want to give him the SS tier, but I don't think I will. I think I will put him, he has some good combos with the X-Force and whatnot, but honestly, I don't feel like leaning into the tribal, like the identity specific cards for X-Force really does cape him when he favors. I think it makes him a bit weaker than what he could be, but he's so strong. It's leadership. You're going to have a ton of allies. You're going to be healthy. It easily gets the job done on standard, but I feel like it's just not quite at that SS level. Domino is another one I played, which I thought her cards were very cool. I thought they were very good, and I had a lot of fun playing her, but there were some cards in here, like Overwatch is really good in multiplayer. Not the biggest fan of it in single. I do really like the pistols, and I like the sharpshooter lets you discard a couple things. I just felt like some of her cards were kind of awkward to play and to get on the board. I felt like she didn't have, even though she's a Justice deck, I feel like I really didn't have the ability to go Alter Ego a lot. There's no way to stop a scheme activation. You really want to be discarding a lot, and that can be weird because it's like there's some high cost allies here. This is only threat removed from a side scheme, which gives her an issue. This is also only the side scheme. So she's a Justice deck, but I found myself struggling with Thwart a lot, which is really weird and really interesting. I do like the guns. It's a Justice deck, but the guns and the sharpshooter, or her pistol and her sharpshooter, really let you gun down and control the board. But then you have to spend your basic activations on thwarting, and I think and she only has a base of 1. Her signature has only have a base of 1, and these are very expensive for their 2 thwart. I just think that there are better heroes. I don't think it's a weak pre-con by any means. I think that you will want to change it basically out of the box. We're getting to the final stretch here. We're in cycle 7. Let's go ahead and go to Psylocke. Psylocke is super interesting. It's another 4-hand hero, but she enters the game with 2 resource generators permanently. It's the Psy Knife and the Psy Katana. This is one just from remembering how the game went. It introduces Flow Like a Butterfly. It's just a couple other cards. There are a lot of triples in here that you don't really like to see, but I will say when I play this and remembering how I played it, this was easily an SS. She has the economy, she has the damage, she has the board control. It's a Justice deck. She has Thwart. Honestly, she has no thwarting events, but the fact that she can confuse, she gets that ability to flip down. Her upgrades either give her 3 thwart or 3 attack. She does it all, even in her pre-con. Her constructed gets even stronger, and she's just very strong. There's not a ton more to say on that. Then we got Angel here. Angel, I found myself, and I was wondering why I found myself not liking it, and then this is why. It's a protection. It's a protection pre-con. I do think it's one of the better ones. I do like some of the allies that he brings to the table, but man, the Elixir, Siren, and Warpath all being 4 cost is really expensive for this deck, especially when most of your turns want to be revolving around playing these aerial events. Now, I won't say he is weak by any means. He has his upgrade, which gives him a free ready or reduces his... where is it? I think it's the Techno-Organic Wings, yeah. Either when you can exhaust it and give yourself a ready and Angel, or reduce the cost of a card for Archangel. He has really strong events. He can control by confusing an enemy or stunning. But there are some times where, I think against Colossus specifically, I put the wings out turn 1 and it instantly got caught off guard, and I think I literally just lost the game from there. He's easily very strong. I think he's definitely up in the S tier just for how he can kind of control the game, but he doesn't put a lot of build out on the board. Honestly, I think I might drop him down to A. Might be a bit of a hot take on the pre-con. I don't know how big people are into the pre-cons, but I just didn't see it. X23. This is another one where I know might be unpopular, but maybe not. I really was not a fan of X23's pre-con at all. I think her hero and the way it's designed is very strong. It can easily beat almost every scenario when built properly, but man, some of these cards I was not a fan of. I think critical hit, where you need to have a side scheme in the victory display, and it's 2 for a stun, I think is very poor. Moment of Triumph, I'm really not a fan of. Now I'm Mad, I'm really not a fan of. It runs into that issue, non-permanent side scheme. This is crazy. I think this deck literally has 12 copies of cards that you don't want to see. And the deck, this game, the 40 card decks, it's 12 copies of cards you don't want to see is an insane amount. that's like almost a fourth of your deck. So a fourth of your draws in the game are just going to be cards that are honestly unplayable. And because of that, I don't know if she's quite as bad as B tier. I'm going to throw her in the B tier. I think you can really lean into her aspect cards and win, but man, the feel of playing the game and drawing into these unplayable cards, it's very similar to kind of these ones in the B tier. They're cards that you just don't want to see when you're playing, and it actively lowers your experience playing the deck. We're going to move on to Deadpool. So the thing about Deadpool is he does come with a pre-constructed deck, and it was so bad, I don't think I even played the game. Deadpool can definitely win with the pre-constructed deck, but I think that the pool cards it chose in specific are so gimmicky. It puts all of the allies in, which I think are so bad. Multiple 6-cost events. We have pool inspection to bomb. I mean, barely a scratch. Like these cards are not good. Like they're triple barely. These cards are just simply not good. Like I don't know how else to describe that. I did not have fun playing him. I think Deadpool might even go into the C tier here. I don't think the precon is good at all. I don't think it helps you learn the game or teach the game to anyone else. And I think if someone picked up Deadpool, wanted to get into Marvel Champions, and tried to play the precon without changing a single thing about it, I don't think they'd continue playing the game. It's not quite as bad as the ones down here where it can't win. Obviously, Deadpool, this deck can win. I just think the experience of playing it is not great. We're moving on to the last two that I've experienced with here. We're going to skip past Age of Apocalypse because I have not played them yet. I don't own Age of Apocalypse yet, but we're going to go to Iceman. I love Iceman. Iceman is one of my favorite heroes with a deck that I built. I published on Marvel CDB. It was in, I think, the first weekly challenge video that I played him for the aerial one. But I will say I was not a fan of the precon. A Beak is such a bright spot in this precon along with Shadowcat. It's just this precon struggles so much with thwarting. It's insane. There's a couple of these triple cards that you almost never want to see. You don't want to see that. You don't want to see surprise move. I get the idea that it's trying to lean into the upgrades. Like I see the idea behind the precon, and I think Aggression Iceman can work. I don't think he's nearly as bad as any of these. Might be some bias. I think A tier when I played it, I definitely found myself struggling for that threat. But seeing the right cards, it was still a fun experience, and you're able to get the win. Now we're moving on to the final one, which is Jubilee. Now, I played this one really recently, and I did like the precon, but again, it runs into that issue where they give you triples of cards that you don't really want to see. I think this precon has a problem. Like, Disguise is definitely one of them. You have the 3 steps ahead where when you're talking about solo, Jubilee doesn't need this much threat removal. I know it's like a weird thing to say, but her jacket and her glasses, and like she has 3 thwart events which already, remove 3 threat and confuse the enemy, because you're always going to confuse because you have all these different resource types in the deck. You have her 3 plasma energy. So I really like the hero in itself. I like she's kind of she's got a decent economy because of these resources she gets in her pack, but I just wasn't a fan of her allies. Waylay I do like, and I wasn't a fan of 3 steps ahead. Generation X was okay. I was able to get the grand finale to hand. The Power of Justice is fine. Multi-talented I think is really good in this one, but in terms of general how I felt playing the hero, I think I almost lost to Claw. I did not lose to Claw. I beat Rhino pretty handily. I mean, Rhino's not difficult, but as a general feel for the precon when I was playing it, it was pretty good. I didn't hate it. It was good. I liked it. I think solid A tier is good for that. Alright, so this is kind of my finalized list here, guys. We just finished going through all of them. I don't think I have any major changes I want to make at all, but this is my list of the hero strength based on precons only, with basically almost all standard and maybe some extra villains thrown in there. I don't know if this is controversial on anything. Maybe someone in the, in the description or sorry, maybe someone in the comments can, kind of argue with me here or there why they think their precon should be a bit higher. But I do think I want to do more tier lists on the channel. I think, I'll make a tier list based on my personal enjoyment of heroes that I've played in this game, which would probably be similar to this, so I don't know if I want to do that one just yet, but maybe I'll do an overall strength one at another time once I get some more experience in the game in general. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the tier list down below. If you guys want to see more content like this or any future ideas for videos, make sure to leave a like, leave a sub. We do weekly uploads here, weekly streams. It's a lot of fun. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.